for 23 years, but I think for the last 5 years, Carmen, maybe? Okay. And he's always wanted me to do something with him. And this thing, he heard about this and called our office, and he was persistent. Anyone know Carmen? Okay. So he was persistent and talking to our staff, and we said, okay, you get a lot of calls in life, right? But you get a lot of people, less people who do. And I think what happened is we said, okay, if you think you do, we're going to give you the hurdles first. And Carmen said, no problem, I got every one of them. So thank you, Carmen. Okay. So now I'd like to take time to introduce my chief of staff, Charlotte McInnes. She will then introduce the conference keynote speaker, and I'll get up and say a final comments before we end the day. Thank you. Charlotte?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone had a great morning. But before I introduce our keynote speaker, I do want to recognize our treasurer. He is much too modest to say this, but I will say that because that's what the chief of staff is entitled to say. This SBI initiative was his vision. When he came into office a little more than a year ago, he talked about how do we help small businesses. His belief is small businesses are the backbone of the economy and the growth in the state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And how do we help these small businesses? And more importantly, how can we bring together academia, private organizations, best-in-class organizations to help small businesses? So kudos to you, Treasurer, on a very successful initiative. Again, something that we think is a world-class event that we hope will continue in many years to come in Treasury. So again, Treasurer, thank you so very much for your vision. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Jack Barton, founder and chief executive officer of Out of the Gray Coffee. He founded Out of the Gray Coffee House Cafe in Fairview, Pennsylvania with his wife, Sheila. He also created an online business that combines his coffee market expertise with a unique level of mass communication, which allows customers to create, personalize, and brand their own coffee creations, which they can then repurchase and share. This online concept, which was the first winner of Gannon University's Technology Business Accelerator Program, where Jack won $10,000 along with 6 months of residency coaching and strategic mentoring from the Erie Technology Incubator. So in speaking to Jack a few weeks ago, he's eager to really share his business philosophy, and today is no different. So please join me in welcoming Jack Barton.
Thank you. All right, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you our journey and to talk about the community of organizations, programs, and people that have impacted our journey and actually made it possible for us. So if I was going to start, I guess I have to start at the beginning. We're Christians. Now, we're not creepy Christians, okay? But we're Christians. We believe the Bible's the Word of God, and that we're supposed to share that. So we were going to be missionaries. We're from Florida. My entire family lives and was born and raised up here in Erie. And my mom bought a small house up here so that she could be a snowbird and to be able to visit her mother and brothers and sisters and make it convenient. But that plan didn't work out so well for her. She was only here for 3 months. She was in a near-fatal car crash with her sister. Her sister broke her back, and once we heard that, immediately we started to drive up here, a 20-hour trip. We didn't know how serious it was, but during the trip, we were getting reports of how bad this accident was. When we got here, she didn't die, and I want to tell you she's doing better today, but she didn't die. And we went from one hospital to another, to a nursing facility, to finally we were able to have her in her home with her sister. And so it's my mother, my aunt, my wife, my 3 children, and myself, and 3 dogs in this little house. And my kids are like nomads. They're sleeping on the floor, behind the couch. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And we're like, is this really what God wants? We're going to do this forever? You know, we got to take care of my mom, but what are we going to do? And one night we're laying in bed. We actually ended up with a bed. And we're laying there, and my wife's just like, what are we going to do? Is this is going to be it forever now? You know, and I'm trying to be an encouraging husband. And I said, you know, sweetie, we'll use Erie as our home base. We'll develop some kind of a ministry. We'll get out there. She's going to get better. Her sister's already going to improve, and we'll be able to do things. And my wife says, are we really going to be able to travel? Are we really going to be able to do all these plans that we had? I said, absolutely. And as soon as I said that, I hear my mom's on the other side of the wall, and she goes, if you guys go anywhere, you're taking us with you. And, you know, so we're like, I mean, we left immediately and went for a ride, but we spent a lot of time in Wegmans. We spent a lot of time in Barnes & Noble. We know Erie like the back of our hand. We know streets. We've walked places. People are like, you walked there? We're like, we never had any problem. I didn't know. We're from Florida, you know. So we love Erie. But they got better, but we realized we could never leave them, and we certainly couldn't take them with us. So what are we going to do in Erie? And we thought, well, if we got a building, we could live above it, and we'll have this coffee house, because I've always loved coffee. My wife's an incredible cook, and we can make this work. Now, even if people don't show up, we could live, right? So we started, let's see if it turns. Out of the Gray Coffee House, Cafe. And it was a lot of work, but it was fun. It's my wife and I with 3 kids. And one thing I did learn about coffee houses, though, is that coffee people are generally unreliable. So we would have great coffee one week and okay coffee the next. And it got to the point that one of our roasters is like, hey, I brought you this big bag of Sumatra you've been waiting on. And I'm like, that's not Sumatra. And they're like, no, it's Sumatra. I said, it's not. It's different than the other Sumatras. You know, it's not Sumatra. And they said, well, we just roasted a little bit different. I said, it has nothing to do with the roast. I'm looking at the beans. They're totally different. You know what? I was right. It was Rwandan. It wasn't Sumatra. But you know what I learned is that I had an affinity for coffee. That I not only loved coffee, for some reason, I was able to work with coffee and create different things with coffee, and it was just awesome. So what did we do? We said, well, we're going to start roasting. We don't have any real money, so we started roasting in an oven and on a grill and popcorn poppers, and we did all these things. And I had one of my buddies that was really good. He's mechanical. I'm not, but he was mechanical. So we built a roaster and did it on a charcoal grill, but we couldn't control the temperature, so it didn't really work. So I said, gas grill, let's use a gas grill. Well, that one melted. But so then we said, you know what we got to do is we just have to invest in commercial equipment. So we bought commercial equipment, and it worked. We started roasting coffee. We started being able to control the coffee, and we're blending, and it's exciting times. Everything's great. And then, like anyone that has kids in high school, my son graduates high school, and I thought he was going to go to college. He said, you know what, Dad, I don't think I want to go to college. I think we'll create another Out of the Gray 2. We'll do it across town, and we'll divide, and we'll make a fortune. And like any parent, I looked at him, I said, are you out of your mind? I said, this is what God has us doing. You need to figure out what God has you to do. I said, you're going to college. I said, I don't care what you do, you're leaving, you're going to college. So we went to Bible college in Connecticut. Well, then, as soon as he left, I realized, what did I do? Now, my son, one of our main workers, is gone. So it's like, girls, all right, got to step up to the plate. Now you're doing more work, And Sheila, that's my wife. I can never tell her to do more work. She's a hard worker, but I said, hey, we all have to do a little bit more. So we're all working. And, so we had issues, we had solutions, we had issues again, but now we're praying again. Lord, what are you going to have us to do? Now, do we hire people? So we try to hire friends, family of friends. Anything, it just wasn't working because we're a family business. and we just don't acclimate. My family doesn't play well with others, so it just didn't fit. It didn't work. And I get a phone call from a man who's talking about an accelerator program. And he says, I don't even know what an accelerator is. So he says, we're looking for entrepreneurs, and we would like to interview you to be part of an accelerator. So you know what I did? I erased it. Because as a good business owner and a hard worker, I knew he was trying to sell me something, and I don't have any money, I don't have any time, I got to keep working. So I got an email. So this guy's crazy, So I got another email, he says, we're inviting you to be interviewed, to be part of this accelerator program. And I erased it. I told my wife, man, this guy, I can't believe it. I mean, any small business, do people just knock on your door? Do they call you to help you? Or do they call you to sell you something? So I said, no, he's trying to sell us. We don't have money. We got to keep working. Focus, keep working. So finally, he calls back again. It's actually Mr. Parnell. I didn't know him. He called and he leaves a message and he says, look, we're not selling anything. It's an opportunity for classes to help better what you're already doing. And I said, that's from God. And I said, wow. I said, he's not selling anything? So I Googled him, right? We all Google people. I'm Googling. I'm like, this guy's the real deal. Okay. So called, made an appointment, went in, and I'm in a room with 3 people. Don't know them. One was WL, one was Maggie, and one was Mr. Parnell. And I thought it went well. We were talking and laughing, and it was just a great meeting. So at the end of it, we're shaking hands, and they're like, well, we're going to have to get back to you. I'm like, okay. So I'm walking to the car. I'm like, get back to me. I thought this was a done deal. You guys are calling me, and the interview went well. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to. So when I get home, my wife's like, so how'd it go? I'm like, it was good. And she's like, is it something you're going to do? You want to be part of? I said, I don't know. I've got to pray about it. We'll see. The next day, they didn't keep me on the hook too long. They said, we'd love for you to be part of this accelerator. I don't even know what that is. So I said, okay. They said, come on this Wednesday night and go. So I went, and it was a who's who of people I don't know. I didn't know anyone in the place, and I didn't know any of the programs, I didn't know anything. And the first guy I talked to was a retired engineer from GE who was published by NASA and had a patent for clean locomotive. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, I'm a coffee guy, and I'm not talking to you the rest of the day. So I look at this other guy. He's kind of in our conversation, this big guy, and he looks down at me, and he's like, I do vertical farming. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you're a coffee guy? We could take your coffee. We take these silos and make 12 different pods and grow coffee from, and it'll think it's in Sumatra. It'll think it's in Hawaii. We can control everything. Here's my scientist. And he brings this guy next, and I'm looking at him like, I'm not even cool enough to grow coffee. I just roast it. I said, all right. And I look over, and here's this kid, and he looked younger than my son. And he's sitting at a table with cards, and he has like a dice, and he's playing some sort of a game or working it out. I said, well, I'm going to go sit with the kids. So I sit next to him, and we're talking, nice kid. And he's like, he actually created the dice. They're characters. They're carved out. He has molds for them. Some of them glow, some of them don't glow. He has this well thought out game with cards, and it's going to be collectible, and it's going to grow. And I'm like, what planet am I on? Where'd all these smart people come from? I'm going to start telling people I'm an engineer or something, because it was that awkward. But you know what? Everyone was really nice. They were welcoming. They were comforting. Remember, I don't know any of these people. And the classes, I heard some of the stuff before, but most of it, I never did any of it before, but I've heard of it. I'm writing notes. I'm Googling at breaks, what does this even mean that I wrote? And it took a while to figure out what I am even going to do with this class. And when I came home, I told my wife just the same stories I'm telling you. She's like, are you going to go back? I'm like, absolutely. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. I have to be here. This is something I have to go to. So What I realize now is that Accelerator was a collaboration between the Gannon School of Business, the SBDC, and the Erie Technology Incubator. And at the time, I had no idea. And what was great about the Gannon School of Business is we had these class projects. And I would sit down with these kids, and I was in this one, and this kid's like, well, you know, you got to be like Starbucks. You got to be like Tim Hortons. You got to work it this way. And I'm looking at him going, you don't know anything. But I'm being polite. I'm like, yeah, that's never going to work. I'm never going to be Starbucks. Never going to be Tim Hortons. And this young lady says to me, have you ever thought about your business like this? And I said, no. And she said, well, what if you did this? And I started to think. I said, you know, I'm so busy working to live, so busy working to pay bills. I've never even thought of my business like, I don't know if she might have been a freshman or a sophomore, you know, I don't even know. Someone else looking at, you know, these fresh ideas, you know, not hardened workers out in society. Because, you know, typically, you know, the people I talk to either have never done anything, aren't going to do anything, and are very negative, or they love everything you do. That's the best thing I've ever seen. And you're like, this is my rough draft. I was just wanting some input so I could make it better. And you think it's the best ever? Okay, that's not going to help me either. Also, the School of Business was really encouraging and helped support our first cafe. They were instrumental in that working out. And that cafe is downstairs, our partnership. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But it's just been an incredible experience. The SBDC, they had all this industry analysis and financial projections. I've never even seen that. I wouldn't even know where to go buy it. I'm a coffee guy. And here I'm looking at these, and they're explaining to me what I'm looking at, and I'm like, you know,